September 11th, 2001. 19 hijackers kill almost 3,000 people in the worst terrorist attack in American history. Very quickly, investigators focus on one man, Osama bin Laden, a tall Saudi millionaire who has already declared war on the United States. President George W. Bush promises to get him, dead or alive. The US government throws everything it has into the hunt. It becomes the biggest manhunt in history. But it still takes almost 10 years. Not until May 2nd, 2011, do US Navy SEALs finally shoot and kill bin Laden in a quiet Pakistani town. So how? How did the most wanted man in the world avoid the CIA, the NSA, the US military, and a $25 million reward for an entire decade?
At first, it looked like they were going to catch him quickly. By late November 2001, US and Afghan forces had bin Laden and about 2,000 al-Qaeda fighters trapped in the Tora Bora mountains. The area is full of caves, high peaks, and narrow passes. Terrain bin Laden knew well from fighting the Soviets years earlier. American B-52s dropped hundreds of thousands of pounds of bombs over 2 weeks. US Special Forces and CIA teams, working with local Afghan warlords, fought their way through the mountains. US spies even picked up bin Laden's voice on the radio, telling his men to fight to the end. On December 16th, he recorded a will. He thought he was going to die there. 4 days later, he was gone. He slipped across the border into Pakistan's remote tribal areas with just a few bodyguards. Why? Why did that happen? The US chose not to send in large numbers of American ground troops. Military leaders were afraid of getting stuck in another long, ugly war like Vietnam. Instead, they relied on Afghan militias. Some of those local commanders were later accused of taking bribes and quietly letting fighters escape. Pakistani forces were supposed to block off the border routes to the south. They never really did. Fasting during Ramadan slowed some Afghan fighters at night. By the time it was over, bin Laden had slipped away into Pakistan.
For the next 4 years, bin Laden was almost impossible to track. He moved from house to house, Peshawar, the Swat Valley, and Haripur, always traveling with his growing family and a very small group of trusted couriers. After a US missile strike in 1998 nearly killed him because he used a satellite phone, he banned phones altogether. No calls, no emails. He only sent handwritten notes, carried by messengers who might travel for days. He burned his trash. He avoided outsiders. He never showed up in public. At the CIA, a small unit known as Alex Station, mostly women, nicknamed the Sisterhood, kept working on the bin Laden case. They had been following al-Qaeda since the 1990s, but after a while, they started losing people and funding to other priorities. In March 2003, the US invaded Iraq. Thousands of intelligence officers, analysts, and special operations troops who had been focused on bin Laden were shifted to the new war. The hunt for bin Laden slowed down, and then it almost stopped. By 2005, the CIA's top counterterrorism official admitted the trail had gone cold. To fix this, the agency launched something called Operation Cannonball, a major internal shakeup that sent more case officers into Pakistan and Afghanistan. Slowly, step by step, the search picked up again.
The big break came from captured al-Qaeda members being questioned in secret prisons. After 2002, the CIA started picking up more and more mid- and high-level al-Qaeda figures and holding them in secret locations overseas. During these interrogations, one name kept coming up, a Kuwaiti courier known by the alias Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the main planner behind 9/11, admitted he knew the name but tried to make the man sound unimportant. Another senior figure, Abu Faraj Alibi, gave a totally different name. Then, in 2004, a lesser-known detainee named Hassan Gul finally said it clearly. Abu Ahmed was one of bin Laden's closest personal couriers, almost like family. When several high-level prisoners lied or dodged questions about the same man, analysts realized he had to matter. They became convinced, find Abu Ahmed and you might find bin Laden.
By 2005, The CIA had his family name from informants in Pakistan. The NSA started listening for any calls and checking any emails between his relatives in the Gulf and contacts in Pakistan. In 2007, they finally got his full name, Ibrahim Saeed Ahmed. Still, just knowing his name wasn't enough. It took 3 more years of watching phone patterns, tracking contacts, and old-fashioned surveillance on the ground to find him. Then, in August 2010, a Pakistani informant working for the CIA spotted a white Suzuki with a distinctive license plate near Peshawar. CIA teams followed the car from a distance for weeks. One hot day, it drove about 100 miles east and turned into a large, heavily walled compound in the city of Abbottabad, about 35 miles from Pakistan's capital and just over a mile from the country's top military academy. The compound? It immediately stood out. It was built in 2005, on a plot of land much bigger than the neighboring houses. There was no phone line, no internet. The people living there burned their trash, instead of putting it out to be collected.
On the 3rd floor, there was a balcony, surrounded by high walls, so no one could see who was out there. From overhead surveillance, the CIA saw a tall man walking there for hours at a time. They nicknamed him the Pacer. Images from drones show children playing in the yard, women in full body coverings, but never a clear shot of an adult man's face. On paper, the owner didn't seem to have the money, not for a place like that. Everything about the compound suggested someone very important was hiding there. But the CIA still couldn't get a single clear photo or sound recording. Inside the White House, estimates ranged from 50 to 80%. President Obama kept asking for more proof, but everyone knew they didn't have unlimited time. Sooner or later, word would leak.
For 8 months, the CIA watched the compound from a rented house nearby. They used small, quiet drones. They talked to local sources. At one point, they even set up a fake vaccination campaign run by a Pakistani doctor, hoping to secretly collect DNA from the children inside. They looked at every possible option. 1. Dropping bombs from B-2 stealth aircraft. It would kill everyone inside, but it would also destroy the body, making it impossible to prove bin Laden was dead. 2. Telling Pakistan and doing a joint raid. It risked tipping someone off or starting a political crisis. In the end, Obama chose a direct helicopter raid, SEAL Team 6. High risk, but it offered the best chance of getting proof.
Just after midnight, May 2nd, 2011, 2 specially modified Black Hawk helicopters took off, Jalalabad, Afghanistan. On board were 23 Navy SEALs, a translator, and a military dog named Cairo. As they came into the compound, one of the helicopters crashed in the courtyard. No one was seriously hurt, and the team pressed on. The SEALs moved room to room, building to building, for about 40 minutes. On the 3rd floor, they found a tall man wearing a long white shirt. He moved toward a weapon. One of the SEALs, Robert O'Neill, later said he fired 2 shots into the head. Over the radio, the team reported EKIA, enemy, killed, in action. Later, DNA tests confirmed it, with 99.9% certainty. The dead man was Osama bin Laden. His body was flown to the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson and buried at sea within 24 hours, following Islamic practice. The US decided not to release any photos of the body.
Why? Why did it take 10 years to find him? There are 5 main reasons. First, bin Laden was extremely careful. He cut himself off from phones, the internet, and most people. He trusted only family and a couple of couriers. Second, in 2003, the US shifted a huge amount of attention and resources to the war in Iraq. That pulled people and money away from the hunt, right when it mattered most. Third, Pakistan. For 6 years, bin Laden lived in Abbottabad, right near a major military academy. Whether it was incompetence, corruption, or some level of looking the other way, Pakistan never found him. Their own official report later called it a collective failure of the state. Fourth, the early intelligence was scattered and incomplete. It took years of slow, detailed work, questioning prisoners, comparing stories, tracking phone calls, just to figure out that one courier, Abu Ahmed, was the thread that could lead to bin Laden.
And fifth, luck and geography. The border areas between Afghanistan and Pakistan are some of the hardest places in the world to search. Mountains, caves, and communities that don't trust outsiders. It's easy to disappear there if you have loyal people protecting you. Those 10 years forced the US to learn some hard lessons. They needed patience, better cooperation, and they had to accept that high-tech tools alone can't find someone who lives off the grid.